Welcome to the Baseline Podcast. This is our fourth episode brought to you by Athletes for Israel, bringing another player playing overseas. You know, we say it every single week, and I love to say it. Every single player has a unique story. You know, the ball really takes you all around the world. Today, we're super excited to bring on Mount Vernon, New York, Demetre Roberts. Thank you for coming.
Thank y'all for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
First, we're going to introduce you to the listeners a little bit. So you're from, as we said, Mount Vernon, New York. You played for Mount Vernon High School. You went to St Thomas Aquinas, D2 for 3 years. Then you followed your coach in D1 at FDU,
Right.
which we will talk about what happened at FDU. we will get into that, don't you worry. You then go play in the G League with the Austin Spurs for a little bit. Then you play, is it Albania?
Oh, no, Serbia.
So it's Serbia. You played in
Yeah.
Serbia for a while, and you played on 2 different teams there.
Yeah.
And now you're playing in Israel.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So obviously, like we said, FDU, what we want to talk about is, you know, you went D2, FDU, NCAA tournament, global stage, G League, overseas. What part of that journey was the hardest mentally?
Which part was the hardest mentally? Where do I start? Well, to be honest, I would say going Division II, just because I was around a lot of Division I talent, and obviously, you know, all my friends went Division I. I was the only one that didn't go Division I, so that kind of, you know, messed me up mentally, to the point where usually I don't ever do this. Like I, you know, get in my head a lot and ask myself like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? Like, I had to really question myself if I really wanted to do it or not, just off of that. But just off my senses and the person I am, like, I kind of snapped out of it. It was like, you know what? This is what God got planned for me. So it's like, I can't go against his word. So, and then obviously, you know, it wasn't a bad decision overall. You know what I mean? Like, so once I got over it, you know, once I signed those papers to go to St Thomas Aquinas, it was like that Division I thing, I put it behind me. And whatever it was in front of me, it was just, I used it and led me here, obviously, right?
You end up on this incredible journey, but where did it start from? You know, when was the ball first put into your hands?
Well, I was actually 4 years old when I actually got first introduced to basketball. The first game I ever watched with my cousin, it was Lakers versus Pistons in the finals, 2004. That's the first time I ever like picked up a basketball, even like watching Chauncey Billups. Like Chauncey Billups, at that point, Chauncey Billups was my favorite player. Like, it was kind of weird saying it. Like, now it was Kobe, like, but at that time it was Chauncey Billups because the way he was impacting the game from the first time I was seeing it on television, you know, it just looked amazing. So it was like I wanted to do that. And from there, like, I didn't really think I was gonna take it seriously, but I always knew that was gonna be my number one sport. Because obviously being young, I did a lot of things. I played football, basketball. I done tried baseball, soccer. Like, I done tried everything, but I always knew basketball was gonna be my thing though. So yeah.
Can we just talk about, you know, that era? That's like real hoops.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, like when are we gonna get back to that type of NBA?
I have no idea. Probably won't ever.
Yeah, which is sad because I mean, you're talking about the Pistons. You know, if we even go back a little a little later, you have Mouse at the Palace.
Right.
You know, that was
It's crazy.
amazing.
Crazy.
Kobe, you know, all the 2000s.
Right.
But you talk about picking up a basketball at 4 years old. You know, it was such a deep thing for you. But you also are from Mount Vernon, New York.
Yeah.
New York.
Yep.
New York is a huge basketball city.
Mm.
We talked about it with other players as well. Street basketball. What was that like growing up?
All right, so just to take you way back, I didn't move to Mount Vernon until I was like 11. So from when I was, let's just say from when I first picked up a basketball, I was living with my grandmother. I was in the Bronx. And even street ball over there is just like, it's crazy. Now, around that time, I'm young, so I wasn't really playing street ball really. But, you know, obviously I'm freestyling at that point, you know, going to the park, I'm playing with my friends, you know, we playing, you know, 21, you know, shooting contests, whatever it was, 5-on-5, 3-on-3 and stuff like that. But even those was competitive. So I think like even today, like having that competitive spirit, I think that came from like just playing in the playground every single day. And then, you know, obviously fast forward, moving to Mount Vernon, obviously different eras and, you know, games are played differently now than what it was before. You know, I don't want to really put myself in that because I'm not really like the little fancy type and stuff like that. But, you know, obviously, you know, street ball is street ball, you know, obviously. But, you know, I don't try to consider myself as a street ball basketball player, obviously. But, you know, just obviously in the summer, having that time off to yourself, you know, after a long season, you know, just to go out there and go to these different parks. And, you know, all these parks are just like legendary, you know what I mean? So just to play in front of those people and, you know, put on the show. And obviously, you know, better yourself, you know, because it ain't a slack. Like, it's a lot of talent in those parks. So, you know, it's dope to see. And it's dope to play in.
That's also the time when you can get deep in your bag.
Right. No pressure at all. So you just out there just, you know, you just playing free.
So when did you start? You said you played all these different sports. You were trying, you said even baseball and soccer you were playing and everything. You know, when did you start specializing in basketball? When did you start being like, this is what I got to focus on?
Probably say when I moved to Mount Vernon. Yeah, when I moved to Mount Vernon, I'll probably say about 11, 12 years old was when I actually started to play organized basketball. So when I was like 4, you know, obviously I picked up the basketball when I was 4, but from 4 to like 10, 11, like I didn't really play on a team. Like it was just like wake up, go to the park, play with my friends, and play hoops. Like everybody knew I was good, you know what I mean? But I wasn't playing AAU basketball. I wasn't on a team where I got a coach, I got teammates, you know, I got to run plays and do all these technical, you know what I mean? So it was just wake up, go to the park. And, you know, obviously when I went to Mount Vernon, that was my first time playing for an actual team where I got teammates and, you know, I got to run these plays. And like, even when I first started playing, it was tough for me because I got to run a play. I was 4'11". I had to play, it's crazy because my dad actually made me play the 4 and the 5. And I'm like one of the shortest players on the team, which is crazy.
You playing the 5 and 4'11"?
The 4 and the 5. I'm not lying.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
okay.
But that was my first time playing because obviously I didn't really, like I knew how to play basketball, but I didn't really know how to play basketball like as soon as I got around other people that really knew how to play basketball. So it was just hard at that time. It was hard for me to, you know, get adjusted to, you know, like plays and stuff like that.
So, you know, having to adjust to that and, you know, having to become a 1 eventually.
Yeah.
Being the 1, you got to know the plays, not just for yourself. You got to know it for the whole team as well. You got to be like, yo, you got to go there. You got to go there. Kind of conduct the whole floor. So how did you kind of adjust to that and start learning the game?
I just started watching highlights. That's just what it is. I just started watching highlights.
Whose highlights?
Chauncey
At that time, I was watching Chauncey, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd. I was very heavy on white chocolate though.
Oh yeah.
I was very heavy. All those fancy behind the back elbow. Yeah, my father actually it was white chocolate and Al Iverson. So I was watching all those point guards and just watching them and seeing what they was doing in the highlights and then imitating it, going into the park and copying what they was doing. And as I was doing that, it was just like, it became like a habit. So I'm like actually doing it in practice and then I'm doing it in the game. So I actually got comfortable and then I stopped playing the 4 and the 5.
So my question for you with that is guys like Allen Iverson, white chocolate, you know, experimenting your bag per se, you know, like guys even nowadays like Peyton Pritchard who can dribble the ball for 6-7 seconds and like go get a bucket. Back in the day, that wasn't so allowed with your coaches. You know, you got to take 3 dribbles and you got to pass it, shoot it. You got to decide.
Very rare. Yeah.
So having to do these like get familiar with basketball in that sense, but also trying to mirror guys like Allen Iverson, what was the difficult challenge that you had to deal with that balance?
To be honest, I wouldn't say it was difficult because obviously what made it easier for me was because I had my dad as a coach. And my dad was one of those, like, he's one of those dads where it's like, you're going to mess up and I'm going to teach you a lesson. And I'm going to show you instead of just, like, not showing me what I'm doing wrong. You know what I mean? So I was, like you said, like, dribbling 6-7 times and not going there, like, it's just, like, it's pointless. You know, he always told me, less is more. You know what I mean? So, and even to this day, I keep it in my mind, like, less is more. So, that simplified everything for me.
Is that something that you also take off the court?
Right. Absolutely. Like, you don't got to really do too much, just be you, less is more. You know what I mean? If they want to do more, you do the opposite. You know what I mean? Because, like, I used it, going into college. Like, high school, going to the college. Like, if you're good, they're going to come to you. You know what I mean? You don't have to. And if they don't, they don't. You know what I mean? Everything happens for a reason. Yeah, so, yeah.
So speaking of going into high school and to college, so you get to high school, you're a point guard, you're coming in. When do you start looking and saying, I can separate myself, I want to start looking at college options?
Well, I always separated myself from everybody because I always thought that everybody didn't do what I did. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I don't want to say college coaches didn't necessarily, I don't want to say they didn't like me, I guess, but, like, it happens though. You know what I mean? I feel like that goes on today. Like, I think kids get overwhelmed with that. Like, man, if they not recruiting you, don't take it personal. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, but use it as fuel. Like, if you feel like they should recruit you, do something about it. Go in the gym. You see people that they recruiting and you see they not in the gym as more than you, keep going. Somebody's gonna come to you. It's always, my dad always told me, somebody's always watching at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's gonna like you. Mm-hmm. And if you stay consistent, if you keep your pace and you be different than everybody else, everything else will play out yourself. You don't gotta force anything, less is more. So I always separated myself because I knew, like, to be honest, like, and it's people that I went to high school with, they'll tell you too. Like, people that played ahead of me, I didn't become a starter until I was a junior. I made varsity when I was a freshman. Mm-hmm. So I was playing behind, vets, you know what I mean? And, I'm just watching them and I'm seeing, like, they don't really do what I do. You know what I mean? But it's just a matter of just waiting and wait your turn. You know what I mean? Your turn is gonna come. And eventually my turn did come. So
you talk about waiting your turn. You also spoke about it a little bit before, how you saw all your teammates kind of getting these D1 offers, right, and it didn't really come to you, but you did get some D2 offers, and you ended up going with St Thomas Aquinas, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but you ended up following your coach. What was it about this coach that was so special that made you want to go there?
Man, all right, so I'm gonna give you a little quick story. So he was actually my first offer my junior year. And I remember clear as day when he gave me my first offer. I remember we had open gym, and this is probably one of the best open gyms I had. And I remember, it was him, and it was George Mason that came. But George Mason came from this is my brother. He came from my brother. You know what I mean? He's not actually my brother, but this is my friend that I call my brother. He eventually ended up going there. But at the time, Tobin walks in and, I introduced myself. My high school coach introduced me to him. And at that time, I'm thinking that's a Division I coach. So I'm like, all right, I got put on.
Turning it on.
I got to turn on. I got to turn it on. And this is probably one of the best open gyms I had. I kid you not. And I remember after the open gym, usually, something good is gonna happen if high school coach pulls you to the side to go talk to the coach. And I remember, shout out Coach Semino, he pulled me to the side and he went to made me speak to Tobin. And mind you, I'm not thinking he's a Division II coach. So I'm like, yes, I'm finally getting my Division I offer. And I remember, man, he was like, yeah, I'm Tobin Anderson, Division II coach, St Thomas Aquinas. And I didn't show it, but I'm like, damn. Like, damn, you know what I mean? And, and one thing about Tobin, like, just doing that as a person, like doing that, Tobin could have easily just been like, oh, he doesn't look interested. All right, I'm off you. And he could have went and recruited somebody else. He offered me, and even like, he'll tell you too, like, he used to text me, call my mom, he'll call my high school coach, just to check in, like do daily check-ins, and I won't respond until like a month later. But he knew, like, and it was messed up on my part. But in my mind, like at that age, like I'm so stuck on Division 1 that it's like, I want to go Division 1 so bad. You know what I mean? And he knew that. And he was very much understanding. Cause like I said, he could have went and just been like, oh, he think he's that. All right, I'm off you. And he could have went and recruited somebody else. He stuck with me through from my junior all the way to my senior, till I was done with high school. He still did the same thing. Texted, call, check in. He sent his assistants to come to my games. And he did everything. So I even like playing my final high school game, and I'm like, damn, I still don't got no Division 1 offer. He was the only coach that came to my game, and I didn't even know. Wow. Like that enough right there. It was just like, it's something there. Like he's very much interested. Like he's very much bought in. So, like that's why I was just like, I can't do that to him. Like I got to go. You know what I mean? So, like at that point, it was just like it was go JUCO, go prep, or I got him. And it was just like, now that I look back, I'm like, I'm very much glad that I picked him, than rather than just reclassing and going prep. 'Cause that's easy. Mm-hmm. You can reclass and go prep, and you know what I mean. But I'm glad I went there.
So, talking about the D2 route, I think a lot of people have this misconception.
Right.
Growing up in high school in the States, there's a lot of guys playing EuroLeague who we could talk and go down a whole list. On,
right.
They're like, even in the NBA. I mean, you see Duncan Robinson came out of D3. Mm-hmm. D3, JUCO, D2. There's hoopers at every level.
Everywhere.
Every level. And there's even, I don't remember which school it was, but there was a D2 school that was like on a crazy run. Like people thought that they could have like even beat D1 teams. I forget which school it was, but the point is like, you end up going D2. You play those 3 years at St Thomas Aquinas. It was 3 or 4 years?
4.
4 years.
4, yeah.
Talk us through those 4 years, and then coach getting promoted to a D1 school. And then he's like, yo, I can't leave him behind. I gotta, he's going where I'm going.
It's so crazy. Like like I said, when I first committed to St. Thomas Aquinas, the Division 1 thing, that I put that so far behind me, like I didn't care for it. You know what I mean? And just being there for 4 years, I met some lifelong friends. Obviously the coaches, I could still call them, text them to this day, have a conversation. I know coach's kids, I know his wife, I know his whole family. So it's just like, things like that you just can't take for granted. You know what I mean? And, obviously just me going there, it was already a winning program before I got there. And just to go there and obviously continue to build on to into that legacy, it meant something to me. But I remember when he got that job, that first day he got that job, that's one day I'll never forget. Because that day I felt a lot of mixed emotions. We had just met maybe about, probably say a month or two ago. We had just lost in the Sweet 16, Division 2. And obviously, that was my 4th year, so I actually had like an option to either use my 5th year or go professional. It was obvious I was gonna use my 5th year though, but I think the conversation with me and him was whether I was gonna leave Division 2 to go somewhere else or stay. And I always knew I was gonna stay. Like, I wasn't going Division 1. If I wanted to go Division 1, I could have been left. You know what I mean? But like I said, just the relationship I've built with him, obviously, he stuck with me through high school. So for me to just play 4 years or, transfer, period, it was just like, I think it would be like a messed up thing to do to him. So it was just like, I'm staying. That wasn't even a question. And when he got that job, it kind of like, it threw everybody off guard because we had something building at that school. And, when he got that job, I didn't really know how to feel about it. Because obviously we didn't find out from him. We found out from social media. So it kind of just threw everything off. But, in the long run, obviously he had the option to take us with him. And, I followed them, and the rest is history, I guess.
So before we get into the Fairleigh Dickinson stuff, I want to hit a little bit more on your St. Thomas Aquinas thing.
Right.
You go and you play 4 years, but at first you win Rookie of the Year, ECC Rookie of the Year in 2019. So did you come in knowing that you were going to have such a big role?
To be honest, no. I didn't know what to expect. You know, I'm a freshman. I'm I don't want to. I'm knowing he wants me here, but I know feelings can change once you get there. Mm-hmm. And knowing me, you know, I'm like, you know, the mindset that I had, I'm just like, you know what, I'm here. I'm gonna just lock myself into the gym, and whatever the coach need me to do, I'm gonna do it. And I was starting. I'm like, oh shit, oh, it was just like crazy. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'm a person that just I stay in the gym every day. Like I'm at it every day. You know what I mean? So obviously I was ready for the opportunity, but I didn't go in thinking like, you know what, I'm gonna win this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna try to get this, I'm trying to get player of the year, I'm trying to get rookie of the year, I'm playing to get this. I was just like, you know, I'm playing, I'm out here, whatever you need me to do, I'm gonna do it. And coach gave me that freedom, and with that adding on to just me constantly working, being consistent every single day, it led me to, you know, again, Rookie of the Year and all conference and stuff like that.
I mean, it's paid off. You also went three-time first team All ACC, 1,500 points in your 4 years. Like it really did pay off working on that. So what is something about D2 basketball that just clicked for you? Like you had so much success with it. You know, what is something that for you on the court you felt like this was just it?
Man, obviously, like you said, it's a misconception. I had that misconception going into it. Like, you know, I know Division II ain't Division I. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you kind of downplay it. You know what I mean? And boy, I tell you, there's some hoopers in Division II. Like it'll make you strap up every single game. Like it ain't not one team where it's like, oh, he ain't good. Nah, there's somebody on that team that's good. Mm-hmm. And trust me, I done had a few it's a few teams I ran into that was like, whew. Like, I'm talking about a few 30 balls, and I'm like, oh, like, so, you know, the competition in Division II level is not what people think it is. Like, it's actually competitive, and it's actually fun, you know what I mean? Because it's a good bump, you know what I mean? And so, and then obviously, you know, being there for 4 years is just like, you start to see different, you know, you start to travel, and you start to see teams from, you know, St. Louis and Florida and all that stuff. It's fun. It's fun.
And I think if you think about it even further, even if you look at facilities of D2,
right, yeah,
comparing it even to overseas, you know, like it's real basketball, right, you know, and that's a huge misconception. Yeah. You know, being at St. Thomas Aquinas, 4 years there, we talked about it a lot, you know, finding that role. We talked about how you learned a lot in high school because you mainly played street ball before that, becoming organized. What was it about the college game that was a little bit different from high school?
Oh, the pace. The pace was very much different. Like it's at a very much higher rate than what high school is. Now, high school is just like, you kind of could, I don't want to say you kind of do whatever you want, but it's kind of like, you know, it's slow, then it's fast, then it's slow. College is just like, right. So I'm just like, oh, and then obviously the physicality. You know, you going against some grown men. You're going against some grown men. So, like even going into college, like I'm just like, oh, I need to get in the weight room fast. I need to go in that weight room. I need to get stronger. I need to get some muscle, something. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So now let's get into it.
Are you ready for it?
I think we're ready a little bit for it. So as you said, you follow your coach to FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson. So talk us through following him there, and then what it was like. I mean, you finally got that D1 opportunity. You waited your turn. You stayed loyal, and it started to pay off. So what was that beginning like?
It was just like I had to bring Division I back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, all right, I'm here. This is my last year. I might as well just go all out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And things was different because, you know, so with Division II, preseason don't start until September. Mm-hmm. Well, our first year at FDU, preseason started first week of July. It was like a quick swing around, you know what I mean? So that was kind of like different for me because like obviously around that time, you know, I'm home playing summer basketball. You know, I get to FDU, I'm like, all right, we got preseason, we got to run the track, we got to do 20 suicides in 20 minutes, we got to practice every day, we got to lift every day. So all those things was just, it was different for me, but I got adjusted to it. But obviously, you know, it was a new environment for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It was a new team. Obviously, you know, the FDU before we got there was 4-22 or something like that. So it was a whole roster suite, like coaches changing and stuff like that. So it was a new environment for everybody. Like you had, you know, probably like 5 JUCO transfers. I think we only had like 4 or 5 freshmen. You know what I mean? So it was, everybody was new, basically. And obviously, you know, for us, you know, it was only me and two other of my teammates that came to Division II with me. We obviously knew coach's system. It was just getting everybody else bought in to know how coaches coach and, you know, his system and what to do on offense and what to do on defense and what he wants from his players and stuff like that. And to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was gonna be pretty rough getting there from the start, but it wasn't at all. It was kind of surprising, like, all right, we're gonna be good. But obviously others, you know, you got polls that come out.
Right. But from the start of the season, you know, you spoke about it.
Yeah.
You and 2 of your teammates from D2 come to D1. You also said you had 4 or 5 guys who came from JUCO.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these guys, especially you and your teammates from before, you guys have a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
You guys have something to prove now. Where did you kind of see that come into play during the season?
Like, to go back to what I said, the polls, we seen those polls, and I'm talking about, we were like, they had us bottom 9th, like 8th, 9th. Like teams that just transitioned to D1 that was ahead of us. We kind of took that as disrespect. I remember that one day in practice when the polls came out, and one of our assistant coaches was, he was stapling it, he printed out the polls, and he put it in each everybody's locker. And was like, that's a daily reminder. And like we took that as like I said, we took that as disrespect. So like even going into like our first game was Loyola Chicago. And we went in there and we could have won that game. We could have won that game. Everybody had us losing by double digits. You know what I mean? And we were up with like 10 seconds. You know what I mean? And no, obviously we didn't get the win, but no, from that point on, we were like, oh, we're going to do something special here. You know what I mean? And obviously, we went through a couple bumps and bruises, but we knew it was going to be fun.
As every team does.
Right.
I wanted to ask you a bit, you know, height thing also comes into play. And like in high school, in D2, and now in D1, where the noise is even louder.
Yeah.
Did that ever affect you? Like people talking about, oh, he's too short, he can't play.
Yeah, hell no. I kind of hated hearing that, but I heard it so much where it's just like, all right, whatever.
Just
you know
watch.
what I mean? Yeah, just watch. Like it's only like, cause man, like it's so many guards that's undersized that do so much damage, and it's like, are we still gonna keep using this height thing? Like, you know what I mean? So, like I said, like even at FDU, we was the shortest team in Division I. Like our tallest player was 6. Our 5-man was 6'6", 6'7" on a good day, and he's not a big man. He's a small forward. He just had to play big because of our height. You know what I mean? So, you know, the height thing don't really mean anything.
So, talking about the system, you said you knew the coach's system. Your tallest player is being 6'6", 6'7",
Yeah.
and you also talked about how D2, the biggest change was pace. You guys being a small team, was that kind of a way that you guys kind of took it as an advantage and ran out teams?
Yeah, we used that. We used that as an advantage because we also pressed a lot. We pressed the whole game. We pressed 40 minutes. So, you know, we also knew that teams don't usually press. So it was just a way of just like getting into you know, messing up whatever game plan the other team had. You know, players, they didn't like our press. Like, you had players talking to us during the game, like, yo, y'all gonna stop pressing? Like, no, we ain't gonna stop pressing. We can't. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we used that advantage a lot. We ran a lot of teams at the gym.
So when in the season, did you start realizing that this was a special year?
Loyola Chicago.
Right off the first,
right off the bat, like that first game, cause like usually like you hate losing, but though like that game right there was one of those games where it was like we went in the locker room, we was looking at each other, we like, yo, we gonna be good. Like we high five. We was if you seen us in that locker room, you'd have thought we won. Like that's like that game right there was just like, oh, we're fine. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's incredible that off the bat you're able to do that. And so, was there ever a moment throughout the season where you started thinking, okay, maybe not, I can start to waver, or was it the whole time you were just going, this is it?
Now, so now we had a lot of ups and downs. So that Loyola Chicago game was like, all right, we're gonna be fine. And then you go 2 months later, we lose to Hartford. That was Hartford at the time. They were D1, and then I don't know what their situation was, but they ended up going Division III. So the players that they had before, they ended up leaving, and they had a bunch of, I don't want to say they had a bunch of guys that can't play, but they beat us, and like that game was like, that was a humbling game, like, cause we actually went in there like, all right, they're going Division III, all right, whatever, and I don't think it was one time we even led that game. Like, we didn't lead that game at all. And we lost, and we had film at 5 o'clock in the morning. We had film at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, and that practice that next day, it was no basketballs involved.
So since we're on this topic, I kind of want to ask, on the court, and you could even take it to off the court, when there's situations where you kind of feel like, oh, that's a wrap, even before you go into it, how do you have to kind of stay level-headed even when you're trying to play up to competition, but even when you're trying to play down to competition, when you know it's a night where you're supposed to win? How do you get prepared for those games?
You got to play every game like it's your last. You know what I mean? When you tend to belittle a team, that's when you get upset. And we learned that during that season. And obviously, that's just in general. You know what I mean? You want to take it to a life perspective. You know what I mean? Like, you might have it all one day, and you might clown somebody that don't have it all. You know what I mean? And that person you clowning, he the biggest in the world. And now you was just clowning him yesterday. Today he got everything you got, and you don't got nothing. That's how fast life can hit you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, you just gotta obviously stay level-headed, stay humble. Like I said, treat every day like it's your last. And in a basketball perspective, like, treat every game like it's your last, no matter who you playing.
1,000%. That's deep. And then we can flip that. You said you're gonna get upset, but now going into the tournament.
Yeah, now going into the tournament, obviously, so you're the 16 seed going up against Purdue, the 1 seed, Zach Edey, Player of the Year, all these things. Yeah. I think we saw that 2.4% of brackets picked you, and then to do it, and that's something that you staple to a locker right there. So what was your guys' mindset? You won your group of 4 game first. Yeah. So what was the first game like?
It's so funny, right, that you asked that, right? Because we were getting asked that question in February during conference play. So at first, we had reporters coming in asking us, like, how would we feel if we play Alabama? At first it was Alabama. Yeah. And, we're like, man, we in conference play. We don't really want to jump the gun and, you know what I mean, give us our thoughts about Alabama. You know what I mean? Alabama's Alabama. We know that. You know what I mean? But I think we got what we got going on. So and we taking every game by game and by day. So we don't want to jump the gun and, you know what I mean, and give our thoughts on a tournament that's a whole month later. You know what I mean? But then we started getting talks about Purdue. Like, how would it feel, you guys knowing you the guys shortest Division I team in the country, like, if y'all play Purdue, what's gonna happen? You know what I mean? We like, what you think is gonna happen? We don't know. Anything can happen. You know what I mean? So it's funny because then obviously we make the tournament, and then it was like, all right, it might be a possibility you're gonna have to play Purdue. You know what I mean? So we like, all right, we'll worry about Purdue when we get Purdue. You know what I mean? So obviously our first game was Texas Southern, Texas Southern ain't even take it serious, which is kind of crazy. You know what I mean? But got them out of there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then now, let's have the conversation about Purdue. You know what I mean? And I remember just watching and then this is a clip that actually ended up going viral with my coach actually saying the more I watch Purdue, the more we think we could beat them. We was watching clips too, like, yeah, we could beat them. You know what I mean? Like, but then, it was like, why are we faulting the coach for believing that? You know what I mean? Is he not supposed to believe that? If he don't believe that, then why are we here? There's no point in us being there if we don't think we could beat. Yeah, it's one. All we need is one game to advance. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you feel that way? You know what I mean? So, but then as we was just watching film, we like, we could beat them. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of time of just matching up and actually doing it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And when that day came.
And that day did come, and you guys going into the locker room. Even, we've talked with guys going to March Madness. There's like media in the morning, media in the afternoon, before the game, after the game. What was that like, just being in that atmosphere of March Madness?
It was so different and annoying, but so fun at the same time. Because Division II, we made the tournament every single year, and obviously Division II and Division I media coverage is so different. So different. Like, when we went there, it was just like, even when Coach was talking to us in that locker room, I didn't even know it was a big camera in the locker room until I looked in the playback, and I'm like, oh, the dude is right by the door. I'm like, man, that don't usually happen. Like, this is our first year. Like, we not really knowing that. You know what I mean? But, it was fun, man. You go, everywhere you go, it's obviously you getting interviews back to back to back. You know what I mean? Media coverage and stuff like that. But me personally, I didn't really care for it. I was just, obviously, like I said, this is my last year to take advantage of everything. I'm just trying to advance as far as I can. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So what was the game plan then going into a team like Purdue, which, I mean, I might have my year off. I think they had Braden Smith at that point.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, everybody, like Fletcher Lloyd, like all these players. Yeah. I mean, Braden Smith's also a smaller guard that to match up with. And you have 7'4" Zach Edey. You have crazy lineups. I think. What is your guys' game plan coming into a game like this?
Press.
Just press that out of them?
Press.
Run him off the court.
Press. That's it.
That's a Joe Mazzulla answer right there.
Yeah, because, all right, so, okay, he's 7'6", whatever he is. Like, he's big. He's big as hell. Let him do him. You can't stop him.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot stop him. And that was not. I got to give a shout out to my boy Ansley, because he was one of our best scorers that year. He had to take a hit that game. Like, I don't think he scored that game. His main focus was Zach Edey. You know what I mean? And when you look on the stats, like, we already know Zach Edey gonna get you 20 and 20. Go ahead. You know what I mean? Now, it was the rest of the guys. The rest of the guys can't contribute to that. You know what I mean? So the triple team, I'm pretty sure he's seen every coverage that was thrown at him that whole year. So us triple teaming him wasn't really a thing. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we're the shortest team in the country, so he's seeing over that. You know what I mean? So, but just let him score and contain the others. You know what I mean? We did a pretty good job of that.
And you go into that game, and like, you guys are the 16 seed playing the 1 seed, but it's also the biggest stage, right? It might even be a bigger stage than some NBA games, March Madness.
Right.
Sure.
Being there, but having to focus so heavily on the number 1 team, was that just like you didn't even really see the crowd and stuff like that, or were you feeling that?
I'd probably say like at first like 3-4 minutes, it was like, God damn. You know what I mean? But then that kind of went away, you know what I mean? Because, obviously the goal is to get up out of here with a win. So, you got to kind of like focus up and like get the job done.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you ended up playing incredible that game. Walk us through what went into you having that kind of performance.
Just being me. Don't do too much. Less is more. Don't change anything. Like I said, you don't want to go into a game doing something you don't do. You know what I mean? Because you can't tell the outcome. You know what I mean? So now, obviously, my other teammate, that was his game, and we was also playing in his city. He's born in that city, so he kind of took that matchup personal. And yeah, we kind of obviously people say I was the engine of that team, but it was like whoever day it was that day, we riding off you. You know what I mean? So my boy Fuzz, he was a hot hand that day. You know what I mean? So man, when he got that off, man, it felt so good to see him. Like just for him to have that moment in his city, it was a wonderful thing. And obviously you top it off with a W. So man, that was amazing.
What was the rest of March Madness like? Just that whole experience with FDU. It's your last year playing college basketball. Were you thinking about it being your last year and like at the highest stage?
Yeah, man. I actually, it's crazy because I was speaking to my friends about it. I kind of took it for granted. Just off the fact that, like I said, like I knew it was my last year, so it was just like even when we beat Purdue, I didn't really get to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, all right, we beat Purdue, all right, now it's on to the next game. You know what I mean? And now we got to focus on FAU. So, like now, a couple months later after that, it was just like, I wish I could have like celebrated it more, like kind of, you know what I mean? Like some of my teammates, like they went on the strip, walked around. That's a good thing, you know what I mean? With family and stuff like that. When we beat Purdue, went back to our hotel, ate, whatever, did treatment. I went right to my room. I went right to sleep. I turned my phone off. I turned the TV off. It was like every channel I turned on, we were on that channel. You know what I mean? It just got to a point where it was like, all right, I don't even want to see it no more. You know what I mean? My phone buzzing, I turned my phone off. It was just like, because I know what everybody's calling for. Everybody's calling to talk about Purdue. Like we beat them. We got to focus on FAU. You know what I mean? So that was my main focus. I was trying to get to Madison Square Garden. Like if I get back to New York, if I got back to New York, I ain't gonna lie.
50 ball.
Ooh. that was my main focus.
Was there ever a time later on in your life that you were able to kind of celebrate that win and celebrate your achievement?
I say yeah, but no. I say no because obviously it was just like, all right, it's over with. It's too late. You know what I mean? But yeah, because obviously I'll be at my friend's house and they'll turn it on. You know what I mean? And I'll just watch it. And I'll be like my first time watching on the playback, and I'll be like, damn, we actually did do that. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So we talked about Tobin Anderson a lot, your head coach.
Yeah.
You were with him for 4 years. Before that, he was really invested in you for 2 years. Final 5th year at FDU. This is a 7-year-long relationship, but had to come to an end.
Yeah.
What was that like, having to part ways with such an amazing head coach?
He cried. He cried. Yeah, it was yeah, damn it. It was like, damn, like it's over with. You know what I mean? But like I said, I wouldn't change it for nothing. You know what I mean? I'm so appreciative for that man, for what he has done for me, and not only for me, for all his players. You know what I mean? And just for him, just being patient with me. You know what I mean? Like I don't even think about with him. I don't even think about college. I think about where it first started at, when he first gave me my first offer, like my first offer. You know what I mean? And like I said, the way I went about it, it's like it's very rare you find people like that handle situations like that. Because like I said, every college coach ain't the same. You know what I mean? And I tell, like, I got 7 little brothers, and one is in college, and then the rest is another one's in high school. So I tell them all the time, like, what I did, don't do. You know what I mean? Because it might not work for you. So if there's a coach that's drooling all over you, invest in him. You never know. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, for Tobin to stay patient with me, and like, I understand him. I understand you. Because he always told me, he was like, I know you're a Division I player. You want to know why? Because I'm a Division I coach. Now, you're not going to get the opportunity. It's just life. You just got to be patient. And he always told me that. You know what I mean? So for us to go Division I together, though, that was just like, that felt so good. Yeah, so I appreciate that man a lot though, because
Especially-
he's just not a coach to me, man. He's like a father figure. You know what I mean? So
it's more.
yeah.
That's really amazing. And then at some point, you kind of have to think about the next path.
Yeah.
Next career. What was that summer like after March Madness? After 5 years playing college ball?
Man, that's when, politics start to come in. You know what I mean? Like, summer league, G League. You know what I mean? Like, I saw my agent. My agent told me, like, man, listen, this is where the politics start at. You know what I mean? Like, you can get a summer league job, but it ain't gonna be easy. And he didn't lie not one time. He didn't lie not one time. I had a summer league spot and didn't get it. Can't do nothing about it. You just gotta keep working. And so I just spent that whole summer in Cali and I was just training. You know what I mean? And I already knew what I wanted. I was gonna go to the G League. I knew I was gonna go to the G League. But just preparing myself mentally for the political side of it, that was the challenge for me right there.
So, I mean, talk us now through, you go to the G League, you go to Austin Spurs.
Yeah.
You only play a couple of games with them, though.
Yeah.
And then you head overseas. So talk us through what the journey was like to the G League, and then what went into the decision to go overseas.
Well, like I said, preparing myself mentally going to the G League I already knew it was going to be, I was prepared for it, but I knew it was going to be a challenge. And like I said, playing games and then having conversations with coaches like, hey, you're not going to play this game. You know what I mean? Because then you have guys that's in the NBA that don't get playing time. Mm-hmm. They want to come down and like, let me get some reps with the G League, and that player might play your position. Mm-hmm. And that's happened. You know what I mean? So, and that was just something that I had to take, and, it was like, it happens. You know what I mean? You can't complain about it. Don't put your head down or none of that. And like I said, I was just like, you know what, I'll just go overseas. And even with that, it was just like, I never been out the country, playing overseas-wise. I never played basketball overseas. Mm. So it was like, all right, how am I going to adapt to all of this? Like, and I remember when I first got my first job at Serbia, when I played with FMP, it was like Serbia. It was like, I'm like, I don't know where's Serbia at? Like, I don't know where Serbia's at. You know what I mean? Now, once I land, it's like, I landed with my phone died, and I wanted to charge my phone, and I'm like, it's a whole nother situation with the plug, and I'm like, all right, yeah, you gotta get an input, all that stuff. I'm like, and then the time difference was killing me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So all of that, I just had to get it adapted to. But
so before jumping overseas,
yeah,
you talked about it, the politics that comes in professional basketball and summer league. Then you go to G League, you end up getting a contract, but you have to take into mind the two ways, the E10s, all the guys who have to get their time, because at the end of the day, it's the Austin Spurs, but they're talking about the San Antonio Spurs, Mm-hmm. So what's maybe a misconception that a lot of people have about the G League?
Everybody think it's peaches and cream. Everybody think it's like, oh, I'm in the G League. Oh, already. Like, no, it's not. It's like, I'll be the first to tell you, it's not. Like, it's gonna be times where you get pulled to the side like, hey, you ain't playing this game because you got Drew Holiday coming down and want to get reps. What you gonna say to him? Nothing. You got it. It is what it is. That's a 2-time NBA champion. He want to get some reps in. He gonna get some reps in. And there's nothing you can do because he play your position. You can't play. It is what it is. Like, I done seen players get 28, 30 back-to-back games and then don't play the next game because somebody got to get reps. You know what I mean? So, like I said, man, it's not always peaches and cream all the time. You know what I mean?
So I think this is a really good segue into our segment. It's a little segment we do called Myth or Fact. It's just like, we're gonna give you a myth or fact, and you can say which one, and then elaborate a little bit. So, myth or fact: if you play D2, you can't make it to high levels.
It's a myth because, like we said before, like you see players get to the highest level from Division II, or not even Division II, Division III, or not even Division III, JUCO. Like, you've seen people reach the highest level starting bottom levels. You know what I mean? So, Nah, that's a myth.
Myth or fact, if you're good enough, it always works out.
Yeah, that's a fact. Because, like I said, if you stay consistent and you do the total opposite of what others are not doing, then it'll work out.
So going into our next one, myth or fact, if you struggle overseas, that means that you're not good enough.
It's a myth. It's a myth because, especially with Americans, you're gonna struggle. And that goes back to people thinking it's peaches and cream with everything. Like it's gonna be good days, it's gonna be bad days. It's how you act on the bad days. You know what I mean? Like, so you're gonna struggle. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has struggled before. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Going into the last one.
Last one, myth or fact, real confidence comes from success, not habits.
Ooh. Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say myth. The reason I say myth is because you have to have good habits in order to be successful in anything you do. Mm-hmm. So like you can't like if I want to be great, right? I can't work out one day and then not work out every other day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I can't work out one times a week and think I'm gonna just be good. Mm-hmm. You gotta stay consistent. You know what I mean? You have to build daily habits. You know what I mean? Your daily habit is what sets your day, and you gotta win the day for you to be great.
So as we're getting on to the overseas, you played in Serbia for 4 years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And there was different leagues though. You played in the ABA league,
yeah,
and you also played in the Serbian league.
Yeah.
So playing in those two leagues, you know, the ABA is at a high level. Serbia as a whole has amazing basketball. Just the local players. If we're talking about the best player in basketball right now, probably
crazy.
Serbian, you know, Jokic. But talk about going over to Serbia and kind of getting acquainted with the game there. And I'm assuming you had to deal with the physicality a little bit. So what was that like playing in Serbia for those 2 seasons?
I will say this. My first year, I definitely took it lightly. Like, I'm going overseas thinking this is like, all right, I'm going to Serbia. I don't know where this is at. I don't know what this is. Like, so I'm just thinking this sweet. Boy, no, it ain't nowhere near sweet. I'll tell you that much. Like I said, the physicality is totally different. The pace is totally different. Like, it's just they simplify the game to a peak. Like, it's different. Like, if you think you're gonna come overseas, especially in Serbia, and dribble 10 times to get to a move, it's not. Come sit down, like that. And I had to learn. You know what I mean? And like I said, you have days where you struggle. And I tell you, my first year, especially being in Serbia, and me taking it lightly, I definitely did struggle. Like, that whole year, I struggled.
On the court, but also maybe off the court, what was that like?
See, here's the thing. Off the court, I really didn't and like I said, I'd say I took Serbia for granted, right? Because I didn't go outside. It was just like, I'm playing basketball, I got practice like a game, or I'm in the house, you know what I mean? Playing a game, or I'm just watching Netflix or something. So I didn't really go outside. I really didn't go outside like that, unless like I went to go get food and stuff like that. Belgrade is a very beautiful city. You know, it's very beautiful. Like I said, I took it for granted. I didn't start to miss it until I went to Sombor when I played for my second team in Serbia. That's when I started to kind of realize I took it for granted a little bit.
Now, speaking of going over to Sombor,
yeah.
You know, well, at FMP, where in Belgrade, you're averaging 6.5 a game, but then you go over to Sombor and you're averaging 20 a game.
Yeah.
So you miss the city, you miss Belgrade, but
Got
basketball's working out. So what went into that?
So it was just the matter of learning from your mistakes your first year and making sure it didn't happen your second year. Now, you know, like I said, I played for Jokic's team. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was a lot of things that went into that, you know what I mean? Like, just playing every game like it's your last, you know what I mean? I was just trying hard to not struggle again. I was trying hard not to struggle again. And like I said, man, I struggled, but I didn't struggle as bad as the first year. You know what I mean? So
that struggle after the first year, going back home to the States, getting back home and having that summer, what was that summer like after being away for so long? Finally getting back home, being able to get whatever grub you want, and then learning from your mistakes and getting ready for the next season.
Oh, it was like fresh air. It was, because even to go back to when I played for Joker, when I first got there, we didn't have a car. We had another American on the team, and I'm asking him how he was getting around. He was like, I got a bike. So I'm like, a bike is crazy. But everybody had bikes in that city, so I had to get a bike. That whole year I was riding a bike. Through the snow, rain.
Cardio.
Not for real.
Wild.
Like, I rode my bike to the gym, rode it back home, rode my bike to the restaurant, home, right back to practice. That bike got a lot of miles, I'll tell you that much. So, like, going back home, like, not driving for 8-9 months was like, when I first got to the States, I went to go drive, it was like I kind of had to learn how to drive again. Like, that type of stuff. Like, but getting there was like fresh air, like, good food, you know what I mean? Like, and then most importantly, you get to obviously spend time with your family. So, it's always a good thing when you always, after a long season, you go back, you know what I mean? It's like a cool off, you know what I mean? You get cool out with your family and, just relax.
So then you start now looking at Israel. So what went into now your decision to come over to Israel and play here?
Now you start to hear some things about Israel, right? And for me personally, I'm not the type of person. I've never been the type of person to go off word of mouth. Like, I want to see it for my own self. You know what I mean? And for me, it was just like another opportunity of just, exploring another country. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I have zero complaints. I have zero complaints. Zero complaints. Like, I actually love it here.
Was there any family or friends that were kind of worried for you to come here?
Yeah, my mom. My mom, like, I'm pretty sure that's like everybody. That's like every mom. Like, I'm like, Mom, man, listen, you ain't the one playing back. It's me. You know what I mean? I'm good. I'm good. Your son gonna be all right. You know what I mean? So, but I'm glad I made the decision to come here, though.
You made a decision to come here also. We're talking again. It's not always first division.
Right.
And now you're playing in the second division, but as we know, there's a lot of good-ass hoopers out here, playing in the second division. So what's it been like, just the league itself, playing for Ramat Sharon as well? What's it been like in the city?
Ramat is, like I said, man, it's a wonderful city. You know what I mean? You go outside, there's great people. Everybody comes to speak to you. Hello, how you doing? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I don't know how to speak Hebrew, but I'm
picking it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick it up a little bit. You know what I mean? But overall, man, like I said, I have zero complaints, man. The people is amazing. The food is amazing. The city is amazing. The weather is amazing. I can go on and on.
And like we said in the second league, there's only 2 foreigners, right?
Yeah.
So having such a heavy weight now on you, how has that been for pressure on the court?
I don't really look at it as pressure. You know what I mean? It's just like I said, it's just another opportunity. Every team has the same goal. You know what I mean? It's just like, what are you going to do to separate yourself from the other teams? You know what I mean? And even in second league, you know what I mean? It's a lot of great talent in second league. You know what I mean? It's a lot of great ball.
What's the stylistic difference of basketball in terms of here versus Serbia versus G League?
I'll say spacing. I think spacing for sure. G League is a lot of space. You know what I mean? Like, even in the NBA, it's a lot of space so you can operate by yourself. You know what I mean? That's why I think you tend to see a lot of one-on-one basketball, rather than like I said, in Serbia or even Israel, like, they're clogging it. Like, you can stand in the paint for 3 seconds or however long you want to stand in there for. You know what I mean? So, spacing, I'll say for sure.
So my question is, coming to Israel before getting here, and then actually being here for, about half a year now, what's one thing that you didn't expect that you would actually really like? Like, what surprised you about Israel?
The weather. Yeah, the weather. I'm thinking I brought like 2 coats. I'm thinking it was gonna be cold.
It's that
Man,
Serbia trauma.
whoo, I'm like, oh, I don't need this coat. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like I said, the weather is amazing. The beach is like 10 minutes from my house. Nah, man, the mall, I done went to like 3 different malls. The malls is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, man, I still didn't really get to explore. Like, I really know it's more out there, you know what I mean? But like I said, man, I'm glad I made the decision to come here.
I think this hoodie's the warmest thing you need out here.
Man, I wear this every day.
Yeah.
I wear it every day.
So, you know, you talk about exploring in Israel. Your first year and maybe also in your second year in Serbia,
Yeah.
you talk about how you took it for granted, especially being in Belgrade, you took it for granted. Is that something that now being in Israel, you've tried to not take for granted and kind of get out there?
That's crazy because I was just speaking to Bearcat about it. I told him like especially my first year, I didn't really go outside as much. Like I didn't go walk around. You know what I mean? Like if I wasn't playing basketball, I'm in my house. You know what I mean? And just for it being my third, like obviously, you know, being in Somber, it was just like the city is small. It's not really much to do. You know what I mean? Everything closes early. So you kind of make you miss Belgrade more, like, because Belgrade is a bigger city. So it was just like, I'm not going to do that again. So now that I'm here, it's just like, I got to explore. Because like I said, you never know when it's going to be last time being here, you know what I mean? So you might as well experience it. So like I said, man, I'm outside, I'm walking around, I'm trying different restaurants, you know what I mean? I'm trying different foods, I'm going to these different beaches, different malls and stuff like that. So, man, it's dope.
I think something that we always hear that we've heard a lot of times in many different episodes is that, you know, going overseas, you're not just playing overseas, you're living in that country.
Yeah.
And it makes such a difference in your experience when you actually try to live there and do the thing. So is this, you know, given your time in Israel, I know it's not that long, but is this a place that you see yourself wanting to keep coming back to?
I wouldn't mind. To be honest, I really wouldn't mind. I really wouldn't mind because people like when I tell my friends back home, like, man, like Israel's like to me, I think Israel is like a mini Miami, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like they like, man, you talking, I don't want to curse, but talking bull. Like, you know what I mean? Like you chatting. I'm like, nah, for real. Like, really gotta come check it out. Like it ain't what you think it is, bro. Like, cause like everybody had that perception. You know what I mean? Like I once did, but like I said, once you have that decision, like, you know what? I want to go see for myself. You know what I mean? So, like I said, man, I'm glad I made the decision.
So for whoever's watching and kind of wants to get to know you a little bit more, what's something that you're thinking about post-basketball career, looking at to do, you know, or what's actually maybe even not looking that far ahead, where are some stops that you might want to take in your overseas journey?
Probably Turkey.
Turkey?
Probably Turkey, yeah.
What have you heard about Turkey?
Great food.
Big food guy.
You gotta do a food review for every country you go to.
I got to.
You know, so as we're kind of wrapping up, you know, you talked about always having to bet on yourself, you know, having to make sure, like, talk less, just, you know what's right, you know. Telling a kid who is growing up and people might be counting him out, what's some advice you might have for him to boost his confidence a little bit?
Man, block the noise. Block the noise out. You know who you are. You look yourself in the mirror. The only person that's gonna stop yourself is you. So everybody else's opinion don't matter. It's the matter of what you want for yourself and how you apply it to yourself and how you apply it. You know what I mean? So, you know, you don't care about nobody else say. Just keep working.
As we wrap up, you know, we usually end with a little shot clock segment. So we're gonna put 24 seconds on the clock. Get my phone out. We'll just give you some rapid fire questions.
You can always pass.
You can always pass. 3, 2, 1, go.
Most underrated part of your game?
Jump shot.
Your go-to move in a big moment?
Side step.
Hardest place you've ever played?
Stark Arena.
Best crowd you played in front of?
Stark Arena.
Favorite warm-up song?
Huh?
Favorite warm-up song?
Pass.
Favorite artist?
Meek Mill.
Nice. There you go, yeah. Meek Mill?
Yeah.
I love Meek Mill.
Mill.
Great. Yeah, Meek Mill, great.
That's awesome. So, Demetre, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show.
y'all for having me. Thank y'all for
Really
having
is
me.
appreciate
awesome.
you coming.
Thank you.